Oh, there we go. Perfect. All right, so it is summertime, and as you know, we were sitting with math geeks in the room. So, lots of times instead of having jokes with my family, I love to give these little logic puzzles to my boys. So I thought it is summer, we've got the sunshine, we've got sunglasses. And so I thought we would start with waking up our mind brains this morning. So I have a little logic puzzle for you. And what I would like you to do, and you can do it in the chat, I'll give you a few minutes, is evaluate the value for each picture given. So the sum you see at the end of each row, across and down. So what would be the value of the sun, the value of those wonderful palm trees, and the value of the sunglasses? So I'll just give you a couple minutes to get those mind brains working. Oh, Karen, you're already on it. Oh my goodness, look at that. We've got a lot of math Sharpies in the room. Awesome, absolutely. So these are great activities that I love doing even with my students in the class. There's lots of seasonal ones out there. And it really, I have them work in partners in the morning, and it's always a challenge for them to do it. So thank you. Absolutely. Betty, you were sharing that this is such an enthusiastic group, and you're definitely right.
They're so great.
Awesome.
This is an awesome group.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you. Yes, 3 for sun, right? 7 for the tree, and 4 for the glasses. Absolutely. Well, thank you, everyone. So why are we here this morning? Well, as part of the summer summit, our role is to be unpacking the new curriculum. So I have today's focus, and that is we are learning about being intentional when teaching the verbs in the curriculum. Why? We want students can put into action their knowledge and understanding of the concepts. I know the past couple of days you've been really looking at the curriculum, looking at the architecture of the curriculum. And today I really want to hone in on the verbs in the curriculum and how they really are going to be the doing of the knowledge and the understanding. It's how you're going to get to that knowledge and understanding. So I kind of have 3 goals for today, 3 criteria of success. And so my goal is I hope by the end of this morning session that you're going to be able to explain why understanding vocabulary is so important to interpreting and understanding curriculum, that you are going to be able to identify and describe the student action verbs in context, as well as giving them and providing them with a definition, as well as looking at some vocabulary building strategies to really support the student learning of those action verbs. And so we're going to walk through some strategies that you can incorporate and do within your classrooms to really support that student learning of the doing in order to get to that conceptual understanding and knowledge of the topics in math. So we all know that vocabulary is extremely important. We know that it is one of the barriers to many of our students is they don't understand the vocabulary. And we really see that evident in problem-solving situations. It's that comprehension. If I don't know what it means, then I don't know what to do. And so I love this quote. It's by Stephen Stahl. And he says, vocabulary knowledge not only implies a definition, but it also implies knowing how that word fits into the world. And so, yes, like vocabulary knowledge isn't just a definition, but it's really about knowing and understanding and being able to do it in a variety of contexts. So and I know, again, you've spent the last couple of days looking at the curriculum, and, this year you were being introduced. Some of you might have piloted the 4, 5, 6 curriculum last year, but for many of you, this is brand new. And when you have taken a look at the curriculum, you see that it is full of vocabulary. Some of it is very familiar, but a lot of the vocabulary used is also words or terms that we might not be as familiar with. So it's really, really important that, yes, we know the different definition of it, but we also know how it works. So my focus today, I kind of took one organizing idea from the curriculum, and I chose algebra. One, because it's not as extensive as perhaps the number strand is, but it does contain a lot of vocabulary that we might not be familiar with. So for example, these are some of the conceptual knowledge and understandings that students need to do. It's some of the nouns pulled out of the algebra area, like numeric expressions, algebraic expressions, exponents, powers, like terms, equivalent expressions, preservation of equality, right? Order of operations. So for many of our students, these are going to be brand new terms for them. As well as when we look at the nouns and verbs, we also see that there is a lot of verbs in the curriculum. Again, as teachers and educators, some that we are very familiar with, we've seen them in our curriculum that we just had, but there is a lot of new verbs as well. And so it's really, really important that as educators, we too have a good understanding beyond just a definition of what they mean. So for example, and again, I just pulled these verbs out of the grade 4, 5, 6 math curriculum, and these are just a sampling of them. There is a lot more of them that I didn't include. But what's really important and to acknowledge that, for example, even the word investigate, students are going to see that verb throughout the grade levels. So again, I just pulled from the curriculum. This is starting in kindergarten. Children investigate quantities. Children investigate shape, right? Investigate equal and unequal quantities, including a balance model. And again, all the way through, again, grade 4, 5, and 6, you see the verb investigate used multiple times again, right? So it is really important that educators, we understand, and not only does investigate appear in math, we see it, the verb used again throughout all of the different subject areas. So here's just a sampling, in phys ed and wellness, students investigate maturation and identity changes during adolescence. So really important that we have consistency. So I'm going to have you think about, this is from the grade 5 learning outcomes. Students investigate symmetry as a geometric property. So what I would like you to do is, what do you think it means for a grade 5 student to investigate? So what would be your definition? How would you define investigate? So students investigate symmetry as a geometric property. So what do you think it means for students to investigate? What would that look like as an action? And I'll have you just pop some ideas into the chat of how would you define investigate? Okay, so Pamela, to look into, to explore, look closely. Fantastic. Yeah, this might involve brainstorming. Absolutely. Hands-on exploration. Fantastic. Play. Absolutely. Awesome. I'm just going through some of them. To compare and contrast. Decide if an image is symmetrical or not. Absolutely. So lots of exploration and observation. Absolutely. So if we look and what we have done, would it help if we had given an actual definition for investigate? So what we've done is we defined investigate as being an opportunity to carry out a formal inquiry or a sustained open-ended exploration in order to uncover new facts, just like you were stating, and draw new conclusions about data and information. And so we know that investigating requires students to use their knowledge and reasoning. So just like you said, they're understanding and using shapes, understanding symmetry, right, to complete a series of tasks. So as you see here, this is one of our toolkits that were created for you as educators to support the defining of the verbs in the curriculum. And this is, like I said, an example of one of the toolkits where we have created a definition that we hope is going to be common language throughout all of the schools, as well as an illustrative example to show how that verb is used in context of our Alberta curriculum. So when we think, it will be, the toolkit will be in the ARPDC website. We are just in draft form right now with the toolkit, but it'll definitely be there for you to share. So if we're going to have clarity, and for me, if we're going to plan and teach and assess our students, we need to have clarity. We need, as educators, to be clear on what the curriculum is asking us. So hence, sharing this toolkit with you, we have created a verb toolkit. So where we have given a definition to all of the verbs within the new curriculum from kindergarten all the way up to grade 6, knowing that many of these verbs are used throughout the curriculum, as well as we have created definition cards, as well as teacher toolkits for you to use. We know that, you know, and you've been spending time these past 2 days, the learning outcome, right? That's what we assess upon. It states what learners must know, understand, and do by the end of the learning experience. But we know, and we have seen that when teachers have clarity about the meaning of the verbs in the context of the curriculum, they can effectively design their learning opportunities and assessment opportunities. They know what students need to do. Thanks, Audrey. So I wanted, before I go in and delve deeper into the actual resource, I want to share a little bit about our process so you can understand how this came to be. We, working with educators across the province, there was always, and even for myself, when I was working with the curriculum, you know, I know there was documents on the verbs. I was able to, you know, search out what does this concept mean, you know, what is preservation of equality. What wasn't available for me is what did those verbs mean? What were those student actions? What, you know, what did it mean? So Kim Matoska and I set out to creating. So we did a lot of research and we looked at different sources of the verbs. And we know that verbs span across, there's different levels, different cognitive levels of processing of the different verbs used. So we looked at Bloom's taxonomy, which is where a lot of our verbs from our curriculum came from. We looked at the depths of knowledge and the differing levels, knowing that those verbs, each of those verbs require a different cognitive level. We know that, you know, it could be just recall all the way up to that very strategic extended thinking. So really important as educators, again, some of those verbs require in-depth knowledge and understanding, and it is a process. It's not just a retrieval of information. And again, here are some examples pulled from the curriculum. right? And so students are being asked, right, at different cognitive loads what to do. And even our learning outcomes have a level, different levels of understanding, all the way from retrieval, just recognizing, right, all the way to investigating symmetry, which requires much more than being able just to, I know what symmetry is, right? It requires lots more open-ended exploration. And as you've seen to a lot of my images already, we have chosen a character. He is a leaf character. And on all of your definition cards that you will have and that you can use in your classrooms for students, we have the leaf character demonstrating the verb. So for those students, having that visual image will also connect to the definition. So where did our inspiration come? When we were designing, and again, lots of blood, sweat, and tears, lots of conversation went into designing this resource. We wanted to choose an image that was very reflective of our Alberta context. And so upon lots of, Googling and searching, we came up with the aspen poplar. And what we learned about the aspen poplar is it is indigenous to Alberta. It is growing everywhere throughout Alberta. And it is very hardy and it thrives in the most adverse conditions. So in our winters, the aspen poplar will survive. So we chose this as representative of the leaf character, as it, like I said, it thrives, and we thought it's really reflective of our Alberta students. It is resilient. It, it grows in the most adverse conditions. It is colorful. Here's an example of the leaves in the fall. So again, if you look closely, you can see that our leafy character matches the colors of the aspen leaves in fall. And so it was really, really important to us that it really reflected Alberta and our students. So a closer look at the resource. And Julie, do these have images in French as well? Yes, they will be translated into French as well. They're just not there yet. And Madeline, I think, and just correct me if I'm wrong, you and your people will be translating, correct?
Yes.
I believe that they are working on a similar document. So I believe one of our larger districts, the Conseil Scolaire Centre-Nord, had started similar work. So
Okay.
the consultant, ARPDC French consultants in math, Elise Morin and Isabelle Bujold, are working on something very similar.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Anita, can we have it in Spanish too? Do you want to help me? I know Anita is with Edmonton Catholic and Spanish bilingual programs. That would be fantastic. I don't speak Spanish, Anita, but if you and I want to chat later, I'd be more than happy to share the resource out. And perhaps we can absolutely, right, have it translated into Spanish as well. Thanks, Brianne. Yeah, we were really cognizant of being connected to nature and that whole Indigenous perspective too. So thank you. Oh, I don't know about that book. Interesting. Okay, actually we might need to look into that then, because this was all created from our own graphic designer and us squiggling on a page. So very interesting. So going back, you will receive, and actually you will receive this today. So Yolanda, you can probably put that in our, the links to go out at the end. So we have created a PDF glossary that contains all of the definitions from kindergarten through grade 6. So you will see on the, in this PDF will be interactive. So you can see all the grade levels where it is found in the learning outcome. as well as where that verb is found within the skills and procedures. So as you can see, right, the word compare, for example, is seen in the skills and procedures all the way from kindergarten all the way through grade 6. The verbs will be hyperlinked. This is in draft form now because we just finished the K-3, which again, Yolanda, we can share that out in a link at the very end. The K-3, kindergarten to grade 3, their package is completely ready to go. We are currently working with the graphic designer right now to get the grade 4 to 6 package ready to go. So it will be ready beginning of September at the latest. We're hoping to have it ready actually mid-August, fingers crossed, for you to have. So what you will notice right now is the words highlighted in yellow. That will be words that are specific to the grade 4, 5, 6. So actually those are the verbs that we are currently working on right now. If these will all hyperlink to the definition cards, as well as if you see an asterisk beside one of the verbs, they contain a teacher toolkit. Where you saw with the word investigated, we had an expanded definition, as well as illustrative examples where you can see that verb within a learning activity, a learning experience. So here is an example of some of the grade 4, 5, 6 definition cards. So again, like I said, there will be an image that supports the definition. These will be a great opportunity. You can, because they are word cards, you will be able to print them off. You can use them in your classrooms for a word wall or a visual word wall, or to have up on, linked on a anchor chart, or just even up on your smart board. Because as we know, these verbs are used consistently throughout the curriculum. Again, it was one of our reasons why we created the resource, is that we wanted to have a common language. So common understanding of what these verbs meant throughout the grade levels. So again, you will see the glossary that will link you to a toolkit. So just like I shared, the toolkits will include a general definition. And what I also wanted to point out about the general definition is that Kim will be working with the other consultants with ARPDC, and they will be creating something similar to this for English language arts and literature and for science. So again, having that common consistency of the verbs throughout the curriculum. So the definition, quite often, if it's a verb that we know that's going to be used, will be a broader definition. Then we go into a more specific mathematic definition, as well as in the teacher toolkit, you can see specifically where the verb is as a student action. So whether it's a learning outcome, a skill and procedure, exaction, which grade levels, as well as an illustrative example or examples of how that verb can be used as a learning experience. So again, you will see where the example is directed to, but knowing that you can change and adapt many of these examples to fit the grade level that you are currently teaching. So Yolanda, this is the resource package for the kindergarten grade 3. If some of you are planning right now, you might want to have a look at the thinking toolkits and the definition cards. So I have included for you today the kindergarten to grade 3 resource package. There is a video in there as well as how you can support the teaching of these verbs, as well as the definition toolkits. So that is a little bit about the resource. Like I said, you will have an interactive glossary. You will have definition cards that you can print out for classroom use, as well as teacher toolkits that will enable you to expand upon the understanding of that verb and actually seeing it through examples. What I want to talk a little bit about right now, though, is so as educators, we understand the verb, but how do we make it very intentional for our students? Knowing that our curriculum, right, has all of these. These are the doing. This is how students are going to begin to understand and gain their knowledge about the organizing idea or about the math topic. The CUS, right, is how students are going to get to the learning outcome, how they're going to get representing and applying equality in multiple ways. So what I want to do now is to just kind of walk through, thanks Linda, walk through a process of unpacking vocabulary at the start of your planning. So again, brand new curriculum, right? So as educators, right, our role, right, is to really unpack. We ourselves need to have that clarity in order to design our learning experiences, in order to design our assessments. So really important that we have clarity. And when we know we have clarity about the meaning of the curriculum, including the concepts and the verbs, right, in the context, we're more able to design learning and assessment opportunities. We know that it's also really important that students practice these skills and engage in multiple learning experiences, both within, and as I shown with the word investigate, seeing it used across subject areas. And so when students, right, are able to use these skills, they're going to be able to apply their understanding from year to year as the math concepts progress. And I know yesterday you looked at the learning progressions of our math concepts. So I just wanted to, because this is the example that I'm walking through, I chose this from grade 4, where in the algebra organizing idea, where students represent and apply equality in multiple ways, right? So this is the learning outcome that you will be summatively assessing and reporting on for parents and our stakeholders. But what does it mean to represent? What does it mean to apply equality? Well, we know that our CUS, right? This is the knowledge and understanding that we want them to have, and we want them to know and understand by the end of it. This is going to help us to get to the learning outcome. So students need to know that an expression can include multiple operations. The conventional order of operations provides a set of rules for evaluating expressions, including the following, right? Multiplication and division are performed before addition and subtraction. Multiplication and division are performed in order from left to right. Addition and subtraction are performed in order from left to right. They need to know that equations can be solved through a process of adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing the same number on both sides of the equation, which we know as being preservation of equality. They need to understand that there are infinitely many expressions that represent the same number, that the order in which operations are performed can affect the value of an expression. And we know that an equation is solved by determining a known value that makes the left and right sides of the equation equal. Right? Like, I'm just thinking, this is brand new learning for our grade 4s this year. So again, clarity is so important. How are they going to get to all of this knowledge and understanding that we want all of our students to know and understand? Well, it's going to be through those skills and procedures it's going to be through the doing, right? So students are going to have to evaluate. They're going to have to create. They're going to write equations. They're going to investigate. They're going to apply, and they're going to solve. So, you know, again, hence why we created that documents for you to have that clarity. So one of the things, and I do encourage you, I have a planning template that, again, Yolanda, you can probably, there provides a link for. For me, it's all in the planning. So, you know, here's a sample template. This is the one that I have been using, that Kim and I created. There are multiple templates out there. I know some were shared. There are some on the ARPDC website. But for me, when I look at planning, right, for me, that is really, really important. So I ideally, when I'm doing my planning, I just copy and paste parts of the curriculum. I might highlight the ones that I'm focusing on. But for me, it's being very intentional of looking at not only the nouns and concepts, but also the verbs. How am I going to design my learning activities that students are actually investigating, that they are creating, that they are evaluating? So I put in this planning template for you to access. You can feel free to change it, adapt it. It is editable, but it is an example. I know you probably have your own, but it is how I work through the understanding of the curriculum, especially because it is new for all of us, truly. So again, right, ultimately, at the end of all the learning experiences and all of the tasks and conversations and observations that you're going to do in the class, you're going to summatively assess on students representing and applying equality in multiple ways. So for me, the first task that I do when I'm looking at the curriculum is, what is that learning outcome? Asking students to know, understand, and do by the end, right? So they know that they have to represent. So they're going to demonstrate a mathematical concept through a variety of modes. We know that they need to have that concrete. They need to do pictures and diagrams. They need to use symbols and words, as well as they need to apply equality in multiple ways, right? So what does apply mean? Well, it requires students, right, to use their knowledge and understandings in a variety of ways. Apply is that higher level, right? They don't need to just recall order of operations. They actually need to have that application. They need to see what does and have a good understanding. What is equality, right? And how can I show equality by representing and applying my knowledge? I also just wanted to point out, today I'm looking at the verbs because I you know, specifically looking and sharing the resource with you. I believe yesterday you went through the toolkits of what is on the ARPDC site. I just wanted to bring it to your attention again, because I am talking about that planning and just unpacking the concepts and the verbs. So just again, bringing your attention to that interactive vocabulary document that has been created, that, you know, gives you the definitions of not only the verbs or some of the concepts, key nouns, as well as right now the kindergarten to grade 3, which is a lot of overlap. The verbs also link to our document. So you're going to want to have this particular vocabulary document saved or bookmarked on your computer, because I think we'll be using it a lot as we move through the curriculum this year. So the second thing, once you have been very looked and provided clarity. I understand what the cusps are saying. I'm understanding what the learning outcome is expecting our students to be able to know, understand, and do. Step 2 is really about that intentionality. So be intentional. When you think about planning your learning experiences for your students, right? Use the verb in your student activities, right? So be intentional. Use the verbs from our curriculum in your learning activities, right? Again, Stephen Stahl had a quote from him at the beginning, but I also love this. Instruction in vocabulary involves far more than looking up words and using the words in a sentence. I don't know if you remember back in the days, right? We were given a vocabulary word and we had to look it up in the dictionary, and then we had to use it in a sentence, and then that was it. And then we were expected to know and utilize that word, right? But we know that vocabulary is acquired, right? Incidentally. So yes, we know that it's indirect exposure, but it is the intentionality through explicit instruction with that word and different strategies that students are going to really understand and be able to put it into action, right? They're going to remember, right? In fact, I forget the stats, maybe Betty and Julana, you might know out there, right? I forget how many times you have to actually use a word before you internalize it and remember it. And I also know as a teacher, I'm thinking I'm the one that did all the talking. I'm the one that used the vocabulary and the preservation of equality and order of operations more than my students ever did in my class. So we need to be very, very intentional when we design our learning activities. So I'm just going to pull one as a sample for you, knowing that there are so many. So again, when I'm planning learning experiences, right, I want my students to understand that an equation is solved by determining an unknown value, right, that makes the left and right sides of the equation equal, right? That's what preservation of equality is, and that it can be solved through a process. That's what I want them to know. But when I'm designing my learning activity, I want to actually use the verb in my learning experience for my students. So for example, right, if they're investigating preservation of equality, I want to use that investigate in the tasks that I design for my students, right? So again, this is just a sample lesson. This is a balance scale. How many blocks have to be moved? This is an interactive simulation for students to actually practice, removing and taking one off. What would happen if you added a block? Investigate, right? Investigate and use what you know about balance to solve some problems, right? Each step along the way. So as you can see, it's very intentional to the curriculum. So, and again, Yolanda, you might want to throw this one in. This will take you to actually the site where students can be interactive and investigate the preservation of equality, right? So they're predicting for students to do. And I was going to show it, but I don't think I'm going to. So again, Yolanda, I know you will throw it in. You are being my right hand this morning, and I so appreciate it. So again, have students investigate, have it open-ended, have them explore, right? That investigation. Here's another example, again, from grade 4, right? Students have to know and understand order of operations. And as you're going to see, and maybe you did yesterday, I'm not sure, the order of operations is one of those concepts that are going to flow through grade 4, 5, and 6. So for our grade 4 students, they are only going to look at part of the rule, and that is looking at multiplying, dividing, adding, and subtraction. But again, when I'm planning my learning experiences, always keeping in mind, what do my students need to know? What do they need to understand? And how are they going to show their understanding and knowledge? Well, they're going to evaluate expressions according to the order of operations. So again, being very intentional with my learning experiences that I do with my students. So here's one for you. And as I was building, I know there have been lots, or I've been watching entertainment tonight where they've been really promoting the new Barbie show. So Barbie and Ken were asked to evaluate the following expression. 3 plus 4 times 2. Their solutions are shown here. There can only be one correction. Who do you think is right? I want you to evaluate and explain your thinking. So let's stop and do this one right now. So Barbie and Ken evaluated the following expression. Who's right? Is it Barbie and Ken? So what I want you to do right now, evaluate, which is to find the value, explain your thinking. So I'll give you just a minute to look at both of their solving of the expressions. Who was right? Was it Barbie or was it Ken? Hey, Hazel says Ken, because you have to multiply first. Look at everybody knowing their rules and the order of operations. Fantastic. Yes, and I love the explanation, everyone. Thank you. Awesome, yeah. So again, right, being very intentional with your lessons, right, that they are using the verb and the action. Perfect. Thank you, everyone. So Ken was right. Oh, Amy, it could, absolutely. And actually my fault, because I actually was giving the right answer to Barbie, but I was doing it late at night. So again, yes, being very intentional in your classrooms, right? So that one was more for fun just because it was so much in, but absolutely, right? Amy being very cognizant of the stereotypes that we might create. So again, being very intentional, but there are some other strategies that you can use in your classroom to really reinforce the vocabulary. And one of them is our good old anchor charts. So those charts that we create using low-tech chart paper that really helps students to think about and use. So what counts, what matters when you investigate? So co-creating anchor charts of what does it look like? What does it mean to investigate? So setting criteria as a class of what does it look like? This becomes extremely important for students to do the self-assessing, right? So when you're asking them to investigate, or you are putting investigate preservation of equality on a task, students can go back and use this criteria to checklist, right? Or say, did I not? Okay. So having these displayed in your classroom as you work through a organizing idea or a learning outcome, these really support students to see, do I have it all? Am I being thorough in my work, in my showcasing my work, whether it's in a product, whether it's in your conversations. So anchor charts, I know we have used them multiple times for other things. I'm sure we have an order of operations, those grade 6 teachers that we're currently teaching it, of the order of operations, but why not do it with the verbs that we are using in our classroom over and over and over again? Another strategy that you might think about is creating a visual wall with student math exemplars. as I showed at the beginning, right, investigate was used consistently throughout the curriculum in multiple learning outcomes as well as skills and procedures. So creating a visual wall with student math exemplars. I can investigate patterns in multiplication and division, and this can be a wall or a mind map that you constantly add to, right? I can investigate percentages. These are some of the skills and procedures where the verb investigate has shown up. So again, creating that visual wall, or even in a journal for students to see how many times they've investigated, right, throughout the learning of the different math concepts.
Tammy?
Yes.
It's Betty, sorry. I just want to comment on that last screen that I think,
Yes.
what I think is so excellent. When you looked at that word investigate, so you have investigate patterns and percentage, which are like, we might say are nouns or concepts.
Mm-hmm.
But the word, then you have investigate strategies, which is different. And I think the example that you showed is really good, because we're looking at something different than a visual, let's say.
Yeah, and each one is different, right?
Yeah.
Like investigating percentage in familiar situations, right? Or investigating strategies. You're absolutely, Betty, right? Like it's so much more open-ended, right? Like investigating is just not telling them what to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's letting them do through inquiry and exploration, right? Coming to knowledge and understanding. So yes, thanks, Betty, for pointing that out, right? Because yes, investigating
kind of
strategies is very different, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it really is about inquiry and open-ended exploration. Again, thinking of our words, using our walls as that third teacher or that learning, right? What does it mean to investigate the preservation of equality? So again, leaving it very, very open-ended for students to respond to. What a great assessment as that educator, to see, do students, one, understand the concept of preservation of equality, but do they understand what it means to investigate, right? So again, as you've seen, I love the use of sticky notes, but a really great quick way to capture student thinking, student knowledge, and student understanding. I also really encourage, many of you have that vocabulary section in a binder or a little do-a-tang. Use that for the verbs as well, right? Do they have an understanding of that student action? What does it mean, right? I love prayer models. Students can create one of those in their journals. What does it investigate mean? Here's my teacher definition, right? But now put it in your own words. Asking students what can be investigated in math. Well, I can investigate percentages. I can investigate strategies, right? I can investigate numbers. I can investigate fractions in real world contexts. Again, prayer models is a fabulous opportunity for students to really capture that understanding of whatever it is, a concept, a verb that you want them to do. Again, I've often used this for assessment purposes, that formative assessment. What does it mean to investigate? Show me using words, pictures, symbols, right? So not only having the vocabulary in terms of the key nouns, or like we said, the concepts, but think about using and capturing the verbs as well, because they are used so often. Again, Flipgrid or any digital app out there, I love Flipgrid because it's free. It's a very easy to use digital app, which records student thinking, right? Using their words as opposed to a written product. They can showcase, what does it mean to investigate preservation of quality using a balance scale, right? Provide students with counters or a balance scale if you have, even I think you can just even use paper plates, right? Have students investigate the preservation of equality, have them record and explain their thinking, right? So using digital apps, this is just one of them, I know there's many more out there, is a great way to see students in action, that doing of that verb. And then a great way to capture when I think about assessing, right? And using a lot of those verbs is the performance task. Now, performance task, when I think, I often used it for summative assessments, but they can be used throughout. And a performance task, for those of you that might not be familiar with it, is really learning in activities that require students to produce a product that really demonstrates their understanding and proficient. It often is used for summative. I know most of my performance tasks were used at the end of multiple days of learning. And students are asked more than recall knowledge, right? So when I think about those different cognitive levels, I showed that with looking at Bloom's and depths of knowledge and Marzano and Kendall's, right? They're asked to apply. And again, when I was thinking about applying knowledge, right? So they're not just telling me, they're actually doing. These tasks in these performance tasks often don't have one solution, and they're very open-ended. And so it really is, performance tasks are a fantastic way of putting multiple verbs into action. So again, here is just a sample of one. I love using the single point rubrics when I'm assessing students, because my criteria is my proficient. Can students do this? And for me, I love, instead of having, a rubric 4-point scale, I love just having, here's proficient. If students can investigate the preservation of equality using a balance model, are they growing or glowing in that area, right? So when I'm assessing, right, it's all about the growing, having students show their learning. What do they really glow in? Perhaps maybe there's areas that they might need to grow in. And so I can provide specific feedback for each of my students in the areas. So this is getting to the knowledge and understanding and to the learning outcome, right? So open-ended, right? They get to choose, they have open-endedness, they can balance the equation, they have the opportunity, they can choose the operation that they want to do. And again, right, I want to capture their thinking so they could create a Flipgrid video or use, the recording on Google. Like I said, there's multiple opportunities. Fumi, yes, do you have a template of the rubric? I believe I do. I'm not sure if I linked it. I think I did. Yolanda, do you want to see if it's linked?
Yes, it is. Do you want me to add it in?
Sure.
Okay, the performance task, right?
Yeah, it should be the whole performance task.
Yeah.
As well as the rubric at the bottom.
Got it, added.
Awesome, thank you. All right, I am going to stop there because I have talked, what time is it? 9:32 for a really long time. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm just going to see, is there any questions, comments, thoughts, wonderings out there?
I have a question.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Go ahead,
The
please.
grade 4 algebra, the lesson plan that you gave, is there a blank document to that?
Oh, for the planning template?
Yeah.
I do have one.
Is there any way we can include that?
Absolutely.
Because then it can work off of what you
Yes,
said, like
absolutely.
copy paste and
Yes. And actually, ladies, it's one. I was working in two my own doc and then I transferred, and it is one of the links that I put in this morning. So I will put it in. It will be there for Friday, or Yolanda, if we maybe want to wait sending out the links till I put that in and then we can send it out? Or do you send it out at the very end of the session?
I send it out at the end.
You know what? It will be in the slides that go out to all of you on Friday.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. The person who just spoke, who are you? Because
Oh yeah, you just came up as a number. Sorry, I was just about to say that.
yeah.
Oh, I couldn't figure out how to get my name on there. I'm on my iPad, so it's a little different. So
Okay.
this is Dean again, Dean Hawkins from Lethbridge.
Okay.
Dean?
Thanks, Dean.
Thanks, Dean.
Yeah. I'll figure that out by tomorrow.
All you do is, you know what? No problem.
do it?
All you have to do is
I
what's
just have
it
to
called?
find my name and then I'll get it. But I'm on my,
In the
I'll
chat?
get on my computer and fix it.
Oh,
don't
you probably
worry about
don't
it,
see
Dean.
all the participants.
Don't worry about it whatsoever.
It's all
Oh,
good.
there it is. I got it figured out.
Hey, look at that. Good job, Dean. On the fly. So
There
I'm
you
just
go.
going to go through a few of the questions. Oh, okay. Susan, did Tammy share her slides? Not yet. Susan, what will happen is Yolanda is going to share out some links that I shared in the session right at the very end. But you will have access to all 4 days of the Summer Summit at the end on Thursday. So you will receive all of the slides from day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4 on Thursday. But you will get today some of the links that I shared, including my PDF to the verb glossary. Judy, you said, how would this translate to online learning? Well, do you want to, I don't know, Judy, do you feel comfortable just popping on a little bit? I just need a little bit more clarification. I don't know if you even have access to your.
Yep. Yeah, I can talk.
Sure, thanks, Judy.
So I know that there are teachers across the province, including myself, who do teach online. So you talk about like doing investigations and you talk about using anchor charts and things like that.
Mhm.
When we don't have a physical classroom to do this in, how would you translate that?
Well, when I think about anchor charts, right, especially because you have upper elementary, right, it should be co-created together, right? So, you know, when you're doing some of the investigation, and even the one that I showed, well, that was a digital simulation of, you know, investigating the preservation of quality. This is why I do like opportunities with Flipgrid and using those digital apps, so you can have a task or an activity that you want students to do, and they record it, right, using the digital app or things like Jamboard. I don't know if you probably use a lot of those in your online environments for students to do. And then I like to record their thinking because, yes, like you said, right, you're not physically there walking around, right, seeing them investigate. So again, a lot is capturing their thinking and their recordings. So, you know, even asking them, what does it mean to investigate? For me, the anchor chart is easy because they could be, you know, when I think of even the investigate, you could be doing it together. Now, I don't know, does your students, are you individually with your students or do you have a whole class?
The way ours is set up, we actually record our lessons. We have an asynchronous program. And so the
Okay.
students are on their own throughout the week. And then we meet once a week to go over any understandings that need to be clarified or things like that. So with that limited time, there's limited time to co-create or even investigate together or any of those things.
Right. Do you use digital apps to have them like orally record their thinking?
We do minimally in our school, and I haven't really investigated that much yet, partly because just the way our school is set up, it's kind of unique because we only have students come in at grade 5. lower
okay.
than grade
Oh, okay.
5,
Okay.
we believe that you need that hands-on, right? But at grade 5,
Absolutely.
students are starting to be able to navigate technology themselves.
Right.
And so, you know, my situation, I'm teaching the grade 5s and 6s. And so it's kind of the babies of the school, as some
Right.
people put it.
Does it go all
And
the way up to grade 12?
yes, yeah. And so they're just learning how to navigate the technology, and parents are often leery of having them on the computer too much.
Okay.
So there's all these other issues
Yeah,
that
you have
we're
a very unique
dealing with too.
situation than
So
most of us. One of the things I would just encourage, Judy, because you have that such unique, is when I say Flipgrid, maybe it's you recording, right? So when I think of, just even teaching them the understanding of preservation of quality, right? You're actually sitting there, with a camera in front of you, right? And having those counters or, like little baggies or something where you don't know how many chips are inside, and they're watching you do it first, right? So you're modeling through your investigation and talking. Like today, I'm going to investigate the preservation of quality. So you, as again, maybe instead of your students doing it right away, you're the one doing the little video and walking through, what does it mean to investigate? Oh, I need to use my knowledge. Well, I know the preservation is, I need to make my sides equal, right? And so they're watching you actually do it, right? And as you're doing it, you're giving them the language and the words as well. Again, yours, maybe we could talk about it a little bit later, but for me, because you're in that asynchronous, it might be flipping it and you actually right now modeling to them so they can see that in action. But Judy, if you want to continue the conversation, we can definitely meet afterwards or on another day to brainstorm some other ideas.
You know what? No, Sheen and
Yeah.
someone else added some nice little things. I know Sheen says when she taught online, she used to do visual sketch notes with her students, and she would do the visual journal page through something like Miro. That's like an anchor chart with pictures and lines to make connections between concepts. And students would be expected to do their own in their own journals. And Nosheen says she got lots of positive feedback from her students for this.
Oh,
And
can you
Nosheen,
put that link in the link for Judy and for all of us? What was it called? Miro? Sorry, I'm just going through all the messages. I wasn't reading as I was talking to Judy.
No, Sheen, if you can come on and tell us about that.
Oh, Sheen. Awesome. Yeah, Sheen, do you want to come on? That's amazing. If she's there.
Sorry, I'm here.
Hi.
So, hi. So I used to use Miro. I'm gonna add the link here in the chat box, but Miro is it's basically like a whiteboard that you can use online, and it has a lot of different options that you can do, like a little bit better than Jamboard.
Okay.
So you can actually I used to use it and I would make my own, like a visual page for like a vocabulary concept that I was teaching. And I would teach my students that this is something like visual sketch notes is like making sense of the vocabulary that we're learning and the concepts that we're learning in their own way. So I would tell them like, it's not that you don't have to copy everything that I'm doing, but I'm showing them like how to use like highlighting or boxing or making lines to make those important connections. So I would demonstrate it to them and they would be following along with them. And I would always be like, remember, like it's your own words, the way that you wanted to do. Like, I would give them all these ideas and I would show them the example and then they would do their own. And I got a lot of positive feedback from the students that we were working with.
Awesome. I didn't know about that one. See, this is awesome. I love hearing from everybody. So that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, Judy. I hope that helps you as well. And maybe you two might want to connect and share some ideas with each other.
I'm wondering if Rachel can come on and tell us about Screencastify.
Oh, yes. I forgot about Screencastify.
Oh, hi. Screencastify I found was really easy for grades 5s and 6s to use because it's kind of like they upload their own videos. Like you can post a concept on Google Classroom. They can go into their Screencastify once you've created a classroom for them, and then they're able to show you their thinking. And it actually works kind of like a YouTube section where the kids can comment and they can react and they can actually see their time in real time for their thinking. So
Yeah,
they
it is
often
a
like
great,
posting
I've
it.
used it before. Yeah, I forgot about that one.
This is awesome.
That's
This
great
is
ideas.
I
things
was just
I've forgotten about. Marielle, do you have
Yeah.
a question?
It's Mireille. I was just thinking a very low tech way because as she said, the grade 5s are the first ones to go online for them.
Right.
Very low tech, just still have them use a visual journal and have them just send in a picture of what they've done. So yeah, they can still follow along. And if you're worried that they're going to go ahead and get all the words, all the things right, I mean, either make it so that they can't continue until they send a picture, or just let them do that, because even that is learning for them if they're copying.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And just even providing feedback right away, right? Like, again, there's that feedback in the moment, which is so important. Kind of when I think of that grow and glow, right? For students, right? Like, this is where you're really glowing. This is where you need to grow. Yeah, no, thanks
Right.
for all of the suggestions.
Right.
Betty, did you have something?
I just wanted to add to what Mireille said. During COVID, when I was helping out at a school, that's exactly what they did. They had the students at home, either if they could scan or take a picture of and have their parents send it.
Mhm.
And then depending on what it was, I watched this grade 5 teacher, and she, with my mask on, of course, and watched, and she put it on a board for the students to see that they were responses to a question that she had posed, where they had to do some thinking. And I mean, she had it before the end of the day, and the students talked about it. So it was, I forgot about that, Mireille. So it was, yeah, I saw it being done, and it was very good, very effective. And I could say very low tech.
Yeah.
Thanks.
One of the, yeah.
Another thing that I'm wondering about is if you're doing online schooling with elementary students and even junior high students, like, yes, it is smart to have your lessons recorded, but what if you can create a time that they can just come together and have a live lesson? Because for high school students, my high schooler is currently in an online summer school, and that's hard enough to do asynchronous. I mean, for elementary students and even junior high students, asynchronous and not having a live teacher to talk to is hard. It's so hard.
I agree.
And I found too that during COVID, too many students were allowed to have their videos off. And for my currently going into grade 8, well, during COVID, she was online, and it's like everybody had their videos off, and they're like in grade 4 or 5, and I'm like, you can't see when a student is puzzled, or when a student is trying really hard but still can't get it. Yeah, I think asynchronous for elementary school, maybe they should rethink that, because I don't think that's the best model.
Yeah.
But we do a lot with facial expressions, don't we? Right? Like, we read a lot of that.
Yeah. I'm sorry for not having my camera on, but I am very much in a just out of bed state.
If I can just respond to that. Yeah, we do synchronous classes once a week too, and I'm available to students throughout the week as well. So very responsive in that way if students have questions. So yeah, and we're aware of, the drawbacks of asynchronous as well.
Yeah,
so,
because if students have questions, like my soon to be grade 12 student at home, if students have questions, they go to their moms, they go to their friends, they don't go to a teacher that they have to email, or they have to get online at a certain time, just because they have a question. And if they only have one question, or they think their question is dumb, they're not going to ask it.
But there's lots of always, right, unique situations. But if you two would love to carry the conversation, maybe you could do, if you want, just for just to share and bounce ideas about, right?
Yeah.
You could send each other in the chat, you can send each other your emails and connect, because it's always nice to bounce ideas and brainstorm ideas off with each other. I know
think
we're
we
getting
also-
close to time, so I'm just going to, oh, sorry, Betty.
I was just going to add that there's a couple of other questions that I think this is really good for us, this
I
conversation.
think so too.
For those
yes.
of us who have to do sessions. So I know in my sessions in the fall that that's something I'm going to have to be very aware of and include that and maybe comment on that. So,
Yeah.
but you did have a question about using games and one about
Yeah.
grades. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. So I'm just looking, what are your thoughts about using games as a hands-on activity? Love it. I am a huge proponent. I think games, when they are in, again, I go back to the intentionality and you know the purpose and why you are doing that game. I find games an amazing way for students to learn and develop their knowledge and understanding, again, by the doing. So I am a huge proponent of incorporating games into the classroom. It's also, while students are playing games, it's also a great opportunity for me to sit in and listen to the conversations being had. So again, it's a lot of self-reflection for me. On the other side, sometimes I pull a group as well as when they're doing games. And so I find games to be an amazing, especially when, again, we're purposeful of them, to get students really utilizing. And again, I can hear the vocabulary. Are they using the vocabulary, right? And strategies that they're being taught. So huge proponent of games. Christine, you said, I've heard that the new curriculum is very full and there's not a lot of extra time. How much time would you spend on vocabulary at the start of the unit? Christine, for me, vocabulary is extremely important. So I don't always introduce, for me, I don't introduce all the vocabulary at once. I introduce it as I go along. So for me, it's not, here's all the vocabulary you need to know for this particular organizing idea, this topic. I introduce it as I go along, and I often add it to the board. Some of the classrooms I was in, I didn't have the wall space. So I used my whiteboard and I just had good old fashioned cardstock paper, and we would write the vocabulary on it, and I'd have a definition and a little verb. So I think it's important enough to spend time on it, but I don't do it at the beginning. I do it as we are teaching, and it's that incidental teaching that it comes up. Just quickly scrolling because I know we're running out of time.
Just about the, there's one about the combined grades.
Oh, I'm teaching combined grades. Any advice? Things I should consider. I am brand new to combined grades. Yes. Yesterday, I think you were showing the progressions of learning. For me, it's really, really important, Brianne, when you're sitting to look at, and for me, it's pulling out those key nouns, right? Those key concepts that it's going to be consistent for both grades. And again, looking at, and Brianne, perhaps we can even carry this conversation further, but it's looking at what's really common between the two combined grades, looking at the actions. A lot of, like I said, there's so much repetition with even the doing, the student actions, the verbs in there. So again, it's being very intentional. What are those main concepts? What are those? And again, for me, it's a process. You're going to see certain concepts, nouns used more than once. Those are going to be your big rocks. So it really becomes in the planning. Betty and Yolanda, do you want to add anything to that question?
Sure, because we're going to talk about that tomorrow.
Oh, perfect.
More when we look at order of operations. So you're going to see that progression. And having said that, you know, a lot of what Tammy is showing you today, it's going to be, I'll reinforce that tomorrow. You're going to see the vocabulary again being important. But I think with the new, because of the new curriculum, somebody had mentioned in the chat box about having to, they have 4 or 5 combined and doing the grade 4. Even in the grade 6, you're going to have to go back. You're going to have to look at that progression because it is brand new. In grade 6, when you're looking at something that has built upon from 4 and 5 in the new curriculum, you're going to have no choice but to go back. So regardless, like having a combined grade is actually going to make you think about it a little bit more, but everybody's going to have to do it. And just the one comment on the games, and we'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. One of the things that everything Tammy said was so true about the games, but one of the things that I always found effective is to asking during the course of those games, because it's fun, they're learning, it's incidental, but perhaps to ask a provoking question, like change the rules or get them to change the rules, to listen to them and comment, but also always debrief. I find that when I do the games, I play it once just to get the rules set out, and then they always have to play it again, and then you debrief with those critical questions or essential questions. So everything Tammy said is right on, just some additional ideas.
Yeah, no, that's really, really good. Absolutely. I think we have 5 minutes left according to my watch. I see, Yolanda, you shared out the links on the slides, and the Monday and Tuesday recordings are all there. Thank you so much. I do want to share that, and I'm just going to go back to my presentation if I can, that just to highlight again for you today, you do have our document that does have the definitions. The definition cards are coming, as well as the toolkits are coming. I do want to share that we are all going to be hosting sessions for the new curriculum coming up. I do want to just say that I do have sessions on our ARPDC site and our ERLC site that really explores even further our resource, but more with a focus on assessment. So really delving in to the planning and the assessment using those verbs. So how are we very intentional, but at a specific grade level. So not just kind of all the grades. So if you wanted to check that out, they are posted already. And I know Yolanda and Betty will also be running sessions with the new curriculum, but I just wanted to let you know that we will be using the documents that were created, but really focusing and delving deeper at a specific grade level on the assessment and planning piece. So, and again, girls, I'm sure you shared that ARPDC has a new curriculum website out. So I'm not going to go further into that.
Yeah, Tammy, there's a question. Do you have planning templates for all of the organizing ideas?
Not yet.
In progress. Okay.
In progress. They are in progress. They're not fully developed yet. I had spent, I think, Yolanda and Betty, we can attest to, we spent so much time with K-3 last year.
Yes.
And supporting the K-3. So we're kind of all trying to play catch up with the grade 4, 5s, and 6s. So yeah, it's a work in progress. Keep checking the ARPDC website. All of these things will be posted. Like I said, the resource package, our goal, we're working hard to get the definition cards and the toolkits done by mid-August, but beginning of September. So check for those will be out and you'll be ready to use them. So thank you.
Tammy, can I jump quickly?
Absolutely, Madeline. You didn't want to talk, now you want to talk.
Now, yes, go for it.
I've gotten a couple private questions about the French, so I thought I would just let everyone know that on that website, the ARPDC website that Tammy shared, there is a button at the top right, and you can switch to French. The K-3, I believe, toolkit is up. I should have double checked that, but we have toolkits with resources all available en français that will all be available by August. So if any of you are here and are bilingual or have colleagues that are looking for the resources en français, those will all be available by August for sure. Keep your eye on that site. Everything is being added. I just approved the science toolkit K-3, so it will be up soon, that kind of thing in French. So thanks, Tammy, and thank you. A very informative session.
Very
you.
informative. And thank you.
Thanks,
And I
Tammy.
just want to mention to everyone that you will be receiving a survey at the end of their sessions. I'm not even sure if they come out every day or if they're coming out at the end, like on tomorrow, but please do take a minute to fill the session survey out. And at the bottom, it does, one of the last questions is, what, where else would you like some support? What other sessions would you like us to provide? So please think about that and do add that to the survey. And
Yeah.
Betty and I will talk about that again tomorrow.
We're gonna, yeah, we'll
What
do
kind
that
of other
tomorrow.
sessions would you like?
Mhm.
And focus for tomorrow's session, Yolanda and Betty?
Oh, it's on the, can you just share again, Tammy? Because you're there.
That one?
Right there. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
for
So
day
I'll
4
put the order of
tomorrow, the ladies are
operations
going to go through order of operations, use
Yeah,
of
finish that,
manipulatives. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
And that dreaded fraction support. Oh, don't miss tomorrow. Don't miss tomorrow. It's going to be a good one. So I wanted to just take the opportunity to thank all of you. Like Yolanda said at the beginning, it is July and you're spending your time with us. We are so honored and appreciative that you take the time to spend your summer mornings with us. So thank you. Thanks to Yolanda and Betty and Madeline for being my, reading the chats and letting people in. It's so nice. It's so much easier than when you're trying to man it all yourself. So thank you all so much, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone, for coming this morning. Again, as Tammy said, I'm just reiterating it. It's such a great group.
It is such a
Absolutely.
great. Oh, I just love Brianne's comment. These sessions have been so helpful. Beginning to feel less terrified for September. Yes,
Oh,
Brianne.
great.
That was
That
our
is
goal.
the intent of all of these, right? And knowing everyone that's there, we are all available, our email addresses and all of there. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Yolanda or Betty. Or if it's a Frank question, go to Madeline or myself. If you want Spanish, talk to Anita. Anita, I think you're still out there.
If you want
Email
something in
me.
Ukrainian, I can help you out.
Exactly. We know it takes a village, right? And so we're all in this together, right? So let's support each other.
Great. Thank you so much,
Have a
guys.
great day, everybody.